So after the last one standing, I thought to myself, that was a great experience. We're probably done writing about this, right? Right? Turns out the last one standing was kind of a start of a process that I thought was also the end of a process that I also thought was the culmination of the process. And it turns out that it was both all of that and none of that all at the same time. Let me briefly explain. So The Last One Standing was an album about weakness and a really public display of my own inability to function on my own and the need for the Lord to inject himself into my life and for me to be able to grapple with him, not just in the good things that I feel and the praise and the worship that I feel, but also in the horrible, 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 horrible things that have happened over the last 4 or 5 years. And I think we can all empathize with the reality that very seldom does pain just kind of drift away once you believe you're done processing with it. So I moved on after The Last One Standing, or I think I moved on, and started writing You're Tired Me Too, which is a record about going through things, but going through things together and going through things with friends and with the Lord. And that was a really cathartic experience to be able to process through those things, not just by myself, but with other people, with other collaborators, with other songwriters, and that was wonderful. And after that release in October, I thought, okay, maybe now this is done and I can move on to different seasons of writing. But then the trigger point for this new record happened, which is the death of something, which was this kind of goodbye to a whole season of life. As the song says, putting to death a whole season of your life so that you can move on with a new one. But after the death of something, I felt myself feeling kind of nauseous when I would think about the past seasons of my life and trying to be grateful for them, but feeling the oppressiveness of associating really good things that genuinely happened in my life, that the Lord caused in my life, and associating them with ultimately detrimental things that happened in my life at the same time. And so I was grappling with the Lord, and I said, Lord, what do I do with past seasons? What are the things I'm allowed to keep? And what are the things I need to discard and throw away? And that's when I got this tagline for this new record, which is, don't look back, the wind is changing. And it was this idea of being pushed forward even when you're not ready to. Very rarely does your life wait for you to be okay when it starts moving on. And I just felt this comfort in realizing that I don't have to linger. I don't have to grapple with things in order to move on with my life. Now, there are parts of me that want to. There are parts of me that want answers. There are parts of me that want security in knowing what's going on. But I realized something along the process. The comfort of knowing things has to bow to obedience. And so I started writing, and I started writing, and I started writing, and I started writing, and ultimately I ended up with 9 songs that kind of cover this topic. Everything from time is not the thing that needs to heal, which is a throwback, by the way. If there are any OGs here that remember 2019 Jeremy, shout out to The Ones We Want, all the way through to what ends up being this antithetical process, which is the death of something, and then the final song on this record, which is called The Beginning of Something. And I think this album is kind of this culminative feeling of once that old season is behind you, you can feel the temptation to linger on it and look back and miss things that were great about those seasons and then try to forget bad things that were bad in those seasons. But within that grapple, I somehow always find myself back in Hebrews chapter 12. You see, Hebrews chapter 11 gives us the great hall of faith, where all throughout Scripture, all throughout the storyline of God and his people, there are individuals who, rather than doing things that made sense to them, they said yes to God. They walked in obedience with him. And then chapter 12 starts with, since you have this great cloud of witnesses of God's faithfulness, of God's mercy, of his kindness, his patience with us, let us lay aside everything that hinders us and sin. And what does it say? Run the race with endurance. And I was just thinking, am I running? Am I running in my life? Am I actually trying to run this race? Or am I hobbling because I'm hanging on to past seasons of my life? Is this really what God has for me? To linger on the people who have hurt me, to linger on my pain and frustration for the rest of my life? Or does walking in obedience mean you can grapple with your pain, but you are not defined by those things, and you actually have the opportunity to do What David says in the book of Psalms, I will bless the Lord at all times, and his praise will forever be in my mouth. You know, later on in Hebrews 12, the writer of Hebrews gives this exhortation to ones who are running with endurance. It says, lift up your weary hands and strengthen your weakened knees. It's not just running with endurance for the sake of it, but it says, strengthen yourself in the faithfulness of God. Strengthen yourself in the kindness of God, the compassion of God. And I think that's what this record is. It is about moving on. Yes, I want to say that. But it's also about clinging to the faithfulness of God and letting that faithfulness that he shows all throughout my own life. I can look at examples in my own life where I've experienced that, and I can run the race with endurance, not fueled by my own might, my own power, my own strength, but fueled by his kindness, his faithfulness, his mercy. And that's what I'm glad we went through it is about. It's about being grateful for the processes of God, even if they don't feel good. And I can genuinely say that on the other side of the last few years, there are things that I learned in this season that I will be a better husband. I will be a better father. I will be a better pastor to people who need pastoring. I will be a better shepherd to people who need shepherding. I'll be a better musician. I'll be a better producer. In every area of my life, I'm going to be the beneficiary of this season of my life, of looking forward and saying yes to God rather than yes to my own comfort and my own ability to wallow in self-pity and to commiserate with others who are also in pain. That's what this record's about. I hope you listen to it. I'm glad we went through it. It's out everywhere, April 24th, which is only a few days away. And I really hope you listen to it. And then also on April 24th, I'm releasing a short film, which is a collection of the songs performed. And some of the videos are already out, but they're edited in new styles and new ways. And I hope you guys will watch it. And then just tell me what you think, man. I think this is one of the most eclectic records. It covers a lot of different styles, a lot of different genres. We have a few collaborators, and I'm just really excited for it. So I hope you are too. And yeah. Thanks, guys, for listening. This whole process has been wild, but hearing that people are experiencing some sort of catharsis with this public processing actually pushes me forward, not in a way where I'm saying, yes, commiserate with me in my pain, but where I'm saying I'm celebrating the fact that there's a testimony from this season. Nothing is useless with God. In the death of something, it says, nothing's wasted, not even a fall. And he's been in the dying, he's been in the killing off of something, but he's holding it all underneath us. Bless you, friends. See ya.